Hello, students. I hope you all are doing well. Now, today we'll be starting up with lesson 7 in history, that is, the Great Uprising of 1857. So, let's begin. For over a century, as the British had been conquering the country, popular discontent and hatred against foreign rule had been gaining strength among different sections of Indian society. And here in the map, you can see the areas which were under the British control. So there were many revolts by the tribals of Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. Now, this discontentment resulted in a number of uprisings between 1767 and 1857, and hence the most significant among them was the Great Uprising or Revolt of 1857. Historians refer the revolt as a Sepoy Mutiny or the First War of Indian Independence. Now, a sepoy is an Indian soldier who fought for the British, and hence a sepoy mutiny. A sepoy mutiny is an open rebellion against the authorities by the Indian soldiers who were serving in the British Army. Sepoy mutiny happened because it was the bunch of Indian sepoys who mutinied. Mutinied is refusal to obey orders of a person who is in authority. That is, they refuse to obey the orders of the Britishers. The Great Uprising of 1857 broke out in northern and central India, and it began with a mutiny of sepoys but soon engulfed wide regions. Now let's study the causes of revolt of 1857. Now, the causes of revolt of 1857 can be categorized under following heads: the political causes, the social causes, religious causes, economic causes, military causes, and immediate causes. So let's start with the political causes. And the first one is Lord Dalhousie's policy of annexation and the doctrine of lapse had made the Indian rulers angry and insecure. By the policy of doctrine of lapse, Lord Dalhousie annexed Nagpur, Jhansi, Satara, Jaitpur, Sambalpur. He made Nana Sahib an enemy by denying him a pension. He also hurted the sentiments of the Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah Zafar by not allowing his successors to stay in the Red Fort. And the successors of Bahadur Shah were also not allowed to use the royal titles. Not only this, the British showed scant regard for the treaties they signed with the Indians. The treaties were twisted and broken to serve their interests. Next, we'll start up with the economic causes, and the first point is the British had drained India of all her wealth and natural resources by selfish economic policies. There was a constant drain of wealth from India to Britain. India's wealth was used to expand British trade and maintain their huge administrative staff in India. The next point is high taxes were charged under the new revenue policies. Now, with the introduction of the new land revenue system, which allowed the government to confiscate land and accept revenue in cash, brought about misery and suffering for the Indian peasants. Now, the peasants were exploited by money lenders and zamindars. They hardly had any surplus food grains left with them. This led to many famines. The next point is the cottage industries faced tough competition from machine made goods. Now, with the coming of the Industrial Revolution, markets were flooded with machine made goods. Indian industries could not compete with them and declined, and hence the artisans, weavers, and craftsmen lost their means of livelihood. The next point is when an Indian state was annexed, the administration was replaced by the company. This created unemployment among the court officials, which was the cause of resentment among the employees. Even landlords often had their jagirs confiscated. And during the tenures of Benedict and Dalhousie, thousands of jagirs of zamindars and talukdars were confiscated, which resulted in discontentment among the people who had been loyal to the British. The Britishers changed the entire economic structure of India, and the changes which were introduced they were suited according to their needs. The traditional self-sufficient economy of villages was wiped out, and this caused resentment among all sections of the people. Next, we'll study about the social and religious causes. Now, with the coming of the British rule, they brought Western culture also with them, and hence the Indians were alarmed by its spread and were suspicious of any change. Now, the first point was the British advocated many reforms as abolition of sati, female infanticide, child marriage, widow remarriage, and this caused discontent all over. Now, these reforms were interpreted by Indians as an interference in their religious and social custom. Now, the next point is an effort to convert people to Christianity. At that time, there were many Christian missionaries who were working in our country, and hence the people started having a fear and suspicion that they would be converted to Christianity. The next point is the introduction of the railways and the telegraph was viewed with fear and suspicion. They feared the British inventions. Next one is the introduction of Western education was also viewed as an attack on Indian social and religious customs. And the last point is with the policy of racial discrimination, the Indians were treated with contempt by the British and were subject to humiliation in all walks of life. Next, we come to the military causes, and the first point is now the sepoys in the company's army were dissatisfied as there was a lot of discrimination between the British and the Indian sepoys. Now, the Indian sepoys were treated with great contempt by the British officers. They were discriminated against their British counterparts. The next point is they were paid less salary and were denied promotion. Their boarding and lodging was also of much inferior standard. Then the next point is an Indian soldier could not rise above the post of a subedar, and hence they were unhappy because they were not given any extra allowance or bhatta for serving in distant lands. The next point is they were also forced to take pledge for fighting outside the country. And the last point is the company passed the General Service Enlistment Act in 1856, which made it compulsory for all the new recruits to serve overseas if the need arose. And hence, the Hindus felt that it was an attack on their religion and caste. Next, we come to the immediate cause. The oppressive economic policies, aggressive annexation policies, religious and social interference by the British government were quite sufficient for an immediate revolt. Now, this happened with the introduction of the Enfield rifle in 1856 to train the Indian soldiers. And here in the picture, you can see the Enfield rifle, which was introduced. The cartridges had to be bitten off before use. It was rumored that these cartridges were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. Now, this enraged the Hindus and the Muslims, as the cow was the holy animal of the Hindus and the pig was considered a taboo for the Muslims. They felt that the British were doing this to defile their religions. And hence, when the Indian soldiers were forced to use them, they revolted against it. In the next picture, you can see that the Enfield rifle is being distributed to the Indian sepoys. And in the next picture, it can be seen that how the cartridges had to be bitten off before use. There was a sepoy named as Mangal Pandey in the British Army. He was a sepoy at Barakpur who refused to bite the cartridges. He fired on two senior British officers, injuring them seriously. He was hanged to death. Now, this incident infuriated the sepoys who started the revolt in Meerut on 10th of May 1857. And here in the picture, you can see the sepoys are revolting, and hence it led to Sepoy Mutiny, where the Indian soldiers refused to obey the orders of the Britishers. So, Sepoy Mutiny was an open rebellion against the authorities by the Indian soldiers who were serving in the British Army. Now, next we'll study how did the revolt spread. Now, the soldiers started the revolt in Meerut on 10th of May 1857. They marched from Meerut to Delhi. They killed many British soldiers and officers. Local sepoys also joined them. Delhi became the center of revolt as they proclaimed the Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India. The uprising spread to central India and western Bihar and Rajputana in the east. The storm centers of the revolt of 1857 were at Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Bareilly, Jhansi, and Ara in Bihar. Here on the map, you can see the main centers of the revolt. The important centers of the revolt were Meerut, Delhi, Awadh, Kanpur, Jhansi, Gwalior, and many of the common people like the peasants and the artisans joined the revolt. There were many prominent leaders of the uprising of 1857 also, as in Delhi, Bahadur Shah was the leader, but the real command was in the hands of General Bakht Khan, who led the revolt of Bareilly troops and brought them to Delhi. At Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Baji Rao II. In Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai led the rebels and fought valiantly against the British. With Tantia Tope's help, she captured Gwalior but died soon afterwards fighting in the battlefield. In Lucknow, Hazrat Mahal, queen of the Nawab of Awadh, led the revolt. Soldiers of Lucknow were joined by the soldiers of the disbanded Awadh army. The uprising of 1857 was short lived. Soon Delhi was recovered by the British. Bahadur Shah Zafar was imprisoned and exiled to Rangoon. His three sons were killed. The Mughal dynasty came to an end, and the revolt had been crushed by the British Empire. The revolt was fully suppressed by 1858. It lasted for a year. Hundreds of rebels were hanged to death as punishment. Next, we'll study about the causes of failure of the revolt. And the first point is, though the revolt was widespread, it failed to involve a large section of the population and different areas of the country. It could not take the shape of an all India struggle. The next point is the revolt did not involve the masses. The people who had joined the revolt were those who had been adversely affected by the British rule and its policies. Important rulers, they did not join the revolt. Instead, they supported the British. Many soldiers remained loyal to the British. The merchants, Western educated middle class, new zamindars of Bengal, and moneylenders supported the British rule. The next point is the British soldiers were better equipped than Indian soldiers who fought with outdated weapons. The British had experience and competent generals who could lead them, whereas the Indian leaders, with the exception of a few, did not possess the leadership qualities and military expertise and experience required to lead an army. The next point is the revolutionaries did not have enough resources for their struggle. The British were financially and militarily stronger. Next point the revolt was not planned and organized. Next, the British, in addition to the advantages, had the advantage of post and telegraph. This helped them to communicate with each other, exchange messages, plan strategies, and act immediately. Next, we'll study about the results of the revolt of 1857. Now, the first point under the results of revolt was it ushered in the end of East India Company's rule. Next, India came under the direct rule of the British Parliament and the Queen of England. Next point is Queen's proclamation was issued which stated that the welfare of Indian people would be looked after. In the next point, the Queen's proclamation of 1858 stated that the Secretary of State for India would be appointed, he would be responsible to the British Parliament, he would be advised and aided by the body called the Indian Council. The next point is the Governor General would hence be called the Viceroy, and he would report to the Secretary of the State for India in England. The next point the British started following the policy of divide and rule to minimize the threat of any future rebellion. Next, the doctrine of lapse was abolished. Next, the number of British soldiers in the army was increased. Next, the artillery was placed under the British soldiers. The next point, the British government promised not to interfere in the social and religious lives of Indians. And the last point, no new kingdom would be annexed. Though the revolt was not successful, it was a turning point in the history of India. It shook the British government's confidence in itself. It also brought to the forefront Hindu Muslim unity. Next, we'll study about the nature of the revolt. Now, historians have held divergent views about the nature of the outbreak of 1857. So, here are some of the views. The British historians consider it as a mutiny confined to the army. Now, others consider it as a religious war against the Christians or a racial struggle for supremacy between the black and the white. Others describe it as a struggle between Oriental and Occidental civilization and culture. Others consider it as a result of Hindu Muslim conspiracy to overthrow the British rule. And yet, some other Indian nationalists called it a well planned national struggle and as also the first war of Indian independence. With this, we come to an end of the lesson, The Great Uprising of 1857. I hope you all have understood it well. I'll be sending you the question answers and the exercises. Question answers to be done in the notebook and exercises to be done in the textbook. Kindly complete your work and kindly go through the video again for a better understanding. So do take care of yourselves and have a nice day. Thank you.